as a roar. He does he do it roar. Here comes the avalanche. Here the avalanche again, my friend.
Welcome to Revolutionary Thinking with me, your host, Ariel the Avalanche. This is where we get your stereotypes, put them on the examination table, get out a sledgehammer, and smash them into smithereens, and throw those smithereens into the incinerator. In the last episode, we came down on thought leader and influencer culture, and in this episode, we are coming down on hustle porn. So, what can I say about hustle porn except that it's extremely cringe? I don't know if you've been on Instagram lately, but it so annoys me when I see another one of these rise and grind. Let's go out there and kill it. And here's another one. Keep hustling and don't sleep, because there'll be plenty of time when you can sleep after you die. To me, it's either really cheesy or really cringy. Maybe we can figure out a new word, either chinge or crease. It's just gross. I never want to bite into a chunk of chinge in my entire life, and crease sounds like some very, very disgusting fondue that's been left out and expired in a couple of months. You know, it's just gross. Let me just preface this by saying I'm not against working hard. I'm not against that at all. What I am against, though, is exploitation and things that just create unnecessary stress and anxiety in the world, and I will get into that here. Where I draw the line is having a 5 to 9 in addition to a 9 to 5, which I think is extremely stupid. Now, you see, what radically intelligent people do isn't this hustle stuff. It's automating and outsourcing their work. Personally, I can't stand loose ends and unfinished business. And this comes in especially in when I play video games. I can't stand it when I leave a game in the middle and I don't get to the end and I don't finish the final boss, or I don't collect everything inside of that thing. And I can never leave an interesting movie halfway in and not get to the end of it. No matter what happens, every single time that there's a task to get finished or a job to get done, I want to make sure that everything is accounted for and I've ticked off the last box of the activities that I needed to do, whether it's a video game, whether it's a shopping list, whether it's something that I'm creating in 3D printing. Every little last extra piece comes off of there. I polish everything. I hate leaving work unfinished. I hate leaving work that I'm in the middle of. I just dislike so much the thought of an incomplete task that I have this natural tendency to want to complete the task. Unless it comes down to something like maybe the stock market, I'm not going to just have it all in, and when I see something is going down, to just keep on that until I think it's eventually going to go back up. I'm not going to let something drag me down. That's something different than keeping a task unfinished. And at the same time, if there's a group project that I voluntarily consider to be a part of, I'm not going to stay in that group, in a toxic group, just because the work that we have to finish is undone. I value my mental and emotional health more than I value the work inside of a group that I know is toxic and I don't want to be around. Now, I also wanted to say that there's a lot of wisdom in understanding that life is a marathon and it's not a sprint. a sprint in my mind is kind of like hustle culture. It's like just run as fast as you can, just do it, and then you put all your energy in the first mile when you got 10 miles to go, and you hardly have enough energy to go those extra 10 miles. The smart thing to do in life and in business and in your work is to pace yourself. Know your mental and emotional bank account and how much you can put in and take out of that account, and understand that, and then prepare a strategy and a plan to deal with that account, so those people out there, they can be running their heads off at the first mile of this marathon, but you jog and you conserve your energy for the marathon, and you don't treat life as this series of sprints where in your mental health and your emotional health goes through all these crazy roller coasters because you're all about hustling and hustling and hustling. Now, the sad thing is, a lot of people treat life as a sprint and not as a marathon. And I'm not just talking about people. This goes on in institutions, especially in academia, in corporations, and in politics, where in academics, it's all about how can we just, vomit out all of these research papers as fast as we can do them. Or you have these tests, which is just the dumbest thing in the world right now. And it's just completely idiotic, where there are these time tests where kids have to memorize things, students have to memorize things, and then repeat them, and then they're timed, and it just adds to stress and anxiety and all this other crap, where in the real world, no one's going to sit you down anywhere other than academia and just tell you to memorize a bunch of BS and just regurgitate it, and they're also timing you to see how fast you can remember something without having to look down at a paper or use your phone or a computer to do that. This is completely obsolete, and it's completely idiotic, and it somehow also relates to this hustle culture. Remember a whole bunch of stuff as fast as you can and write it down on a paper so I can give you a letter. In corporations, the hustle culture, it's all about short-term profits. It's like, how can we get the most profits right now doing these things? And have you ever seen salespeople, no matter if it's cars or electronics or any of these things, just try to hustle down their customers to get them to buy now, get them to sign on the dotted line? Ever see that movie Glengarry, Glenn Ross? The leads aren't weak. You're weak. Make them sign on the dotted line. Get them there, or you're a nobody, and you're this and you're that. It's all pure hustle culture, crap, garbage, filth. It's like, excuse me, you big, fat, stupid, idiotic moron who likes to show off. It's not about just hustling your customers until they feel anxious and giving them FOMO, fear on missing out, of not buying something, because later, somewhere down the line, when you keep hustling and hustling and hustling and keeping more tabs on your short-term profits other than your long-term business strategy or other than your long-term relationships aren't only important to your customers, but long-term relationships are also important to your employees. If you have some bonehead up there who rules the corporation or rules the company, and their only focus is on the short term, extracting every hour out of their employees and every penny out of their customers, over the long run, that's not going to work, because people are going to know maybe you hustled them to buy some kind of product that wasn't ready for the market at that time. Over the long term, you're going to get bad reviews from your employees who used to work with you, who didn't like this type of hustle culture, who didn't like this kind of stress and strain on their mental health when they worked with said company or said corporation that's only worried about hustling for every last penny that they can get out of the customers. And the customers won't like it either when this kind of like hustle disease spills over to them, and then they go home with maybe a product that they didn't want or didn't like, but in that moment in time, they felt forced or made to buy this product because you trained your employee to do these interrogation tactics and manipulation tactics on the customer to get them to sign up for a credit card or to make them make a big ticket purchase without having to think it through and having to use manipulation tactics, sprinkle a little bit of lies and a little bit of half truths just so you can hit that mark for that day. It's a much better idea if you train your employees to have good relationship with the customers and not strong arm them and appreciate their decisions. That way you get repeat customers, and you don't get customers who buy a big ticket purchase, go home, maybe don't like it, and there's some kind of weird guarantee on there where they can't get a refund, and then they end up bad-mouthing your company or store or corporation online or to their friends. It just doesn't work. You got to think in the long term. And in politics, I see it too. It's all about hustling the voters to just vote for you right there and then, sending as many flyers as you can, sending as many texts out as you can, as much phone banking as you can, and you don't even explain the candidate's positions on anything. You just say, oh, vote for this candidate, this is the time you're supposed to vote, and this is the candidate, just vote for them. But you don't go into details on where they stand, on what positions, what they want for the people that they're representing. It's just like, don't forget to vote. Okay, bye. And then you go down to the next door. Oh, just vote for this guy. Here's a bunch of stuff. Okay, bye. It's take time, take energy, and take effort to explain things, and don't just hustle. Don't just go at it like that. And it contributes to this disgusting culture that I like to call survival of the slickest. We have a survival of the slickest mentality in a lot of Western countries, and especially the United States, where it's all about smoke screens. Who can look the best? Who can give the best 30-second elevator pitch? Who can razzle and dazzle someone as fast as they can in the least amount of time they can? Who can come up with the best sound bites here and there? But we hardly take any time to go into deep dives, and it's absolutely, completely idiotic. And I saw a meme that just portrayed this so perfectly. In school, they tell you they want your research paper to be a minimum of 5 pages or it's not worthy of anything, where when you get out there in the world, people want you to explain something in 7 seconds or less, or else they lose interest. Now think about that. You were in school absorbing an hour-long lecture with a test that took at least 5 minutes, while out there in the world, people want a 30-second elevator pitch or a sound bite, or else their attention spans are so short, they just jump onto something else. And then we wonder why young people are so confused when they get out into the world sometimes. It's because this hustle culture, it's making people stupid. I'm sorry, it's making people dumb. It's all about the fastest, slickest thing, or it's not worthy, or it's not quick enough, or you didn't look fancy enough or razzle dazzle someone in the first 5 seconds, so they can't hold their attention. This has got to change. This is idiotic. The one thing that I like about working, though, is that I'm meticulous and I like being detailed. I like looking at things piece by piece, seeing where things go, seeing how things get put together. I like polishing things, and I like looking at rough drafts and correcting things and making final drafts. But the problem with this hustle culture that I see is that things are done willy-nilly. Things are done without a second thought being put to them, and it really looks like a compilation of a whole bunch of rough drafts when you're hustling and not having the time to go back and to do a final draft and to polish things up. And also, I think back in the day when people were living in caves and we had hunters, it would have been the dumbest idea for hunters to chase their prey and kill their prey with their bare hands. It kind of sounds like a hustle culture right there. Just run and use your hands to kill things. But a much better idea would have been to use tools like spears and arrows. Because when you're using spears and arrows, you can stand at a distance, you could throw a spear, and you can shoot a bow and arrow. And it requires less energy and less effort, but it's a smarter thing to do, and it gets more done with less energy and effort being exerted, but you're getting more done. So, what's more important than hustling is using tools and having guidance on how to use those tools instead of just having to feel like you're constantly bashing your head against the wall. So, let me just give you an example. Let's say a guy has a headache and he thinks how to cure his headache is to bash his head against the wall. And then he thinks that his headache is getting worse and it's not getting cured because he's not just bashing his head against the wall hard enough and fast enough, which is really, really dumb. It's kind of like, yeah, hustle sometimes, but know what direction you're hustling in to begin with. It doesn't matter if you're racing and you're racing in the wrong direction, all that hustling is just going to make things worse when you realize that you're doing it in the wrong direction. What's the goal and what's the plan to reach that goal? Not just mindless hustling and exerting energy, but you're exerting that energy and it's going toward the wrong thing and you're not realizing it. And how I can relate this to any of you gamers out there is that there's something in a video game called save points. So save points really help you because just in case something goes wrong, you saved at that point and you know you're going to come back and you're not going to lose too much. And the importance of this is that you can spend all your time in a game hustling to get the most ammo, the most health, and the most armor. But when something goes wrong, you didn't have that save point there, so you're going to start all the way back from the beginning. And you also know that hustling is dumb because during the coronavirus pandemic, a lot of people hustled to the grocery store to buy a whole bunch of toilet paper. Now, they hustled for toilet paper, which is kind of dumb. Why wouldn't you get food and medicine? But at the same time, you're hustling for all of these food at the grocery store when those foods are perishable. They expire. And the thing is, you can buy 10 gallons of milk and you keep them in the fridge, and by the time you get to your third gallon, it's expired. So you used all that energy for no reason. The energy meant nothing and the hustling meant nothing because at the end of the day, it didn't serve you. You have to remember to create lasting things or else all of your hustle isn't going to count. And speaking of no save points and not creating something that lasts, I'm I'm hustling through this last section of what I'm doing right here because I got to hit a deadline. And actually, when you have to hit a deadline, it's okay to hustle. But at the same time, that's because of the deadline. But you already made the plans and the strategies before. And if you're hustling to a deadline is okay. So the thing is that I lost all of this last thing right here. I lost all of this, that what I'm saying to you, because I noticed that the microphone wasn't plugged in. So I lost all that stuff. But at the same time, you see that's because hustling puts you in that mode. It's not peaceful. You're in panic mode. So when you're in panic mode, you fail to plan. And then when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. But when you're in a more peaceful mode, you're more productive. Maybe if you did like a meditation before you did something. Maybe you went on a walk. It's more peaceful that way rather than when you're in a mode that's kind of too crazy. And also, I think that out there right now, there's too much motivational BS when you look at Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube and all of that stuff. And the thing is that it's so much up there, but it's like it's becoming exhibitionist. I don't have to know about you getting up at 5 a.m., eating 5 raw eggs, and then hitting a gym, and then eating a kale smoothie for a snack, and then hitting the gym again, having another kale smoothie, and then doing 10 jumping jacks, and having a list of 500 leads that you need to call, and then out of those 500 leads, you got 5 sales from people that you strong-armed sales to. I don't need to know all of that about your life and about what you're doing. So it's very important these days to concentrate on the signal and not the noise. So it's like when we concentrate on the signal, we concentrate on maybe, let's say there's 5 people in a room. They're talking about strategies, they have charts, they have data, and they're sifting through all that in an intelligent way. Now the noise is just a bunch of people motivating each other and talking over each other and talking about how awesome and cool they are when nothing's getting accomplished. It's much more important to have specific, actionable information than generic bullcrap information. And that's a lot of what I see on Instagram and Facebook. And let me just kind of end with this. It's never okay to be an asshole to the people who are struggling when it comes to this kind of hustle culture. And this kind of ties back into influencer and clout culture. Don't say that people are sad or depressed or unhappy just because they're not working hard enough or hustling hard enough. You never know their background. You never know what kind of struggles that they had in life, how their parents treated them, what kind of schools they went to, and things like that. If you do stuff like that, and it's usually sometimes the people with a lot of perks in childhood and in adulthood who have the gall to cast judgments on those who are struggling. And a lot of these people make fake stories about their childhood and how it was tough and hard, when sometimes when you dig a little deeper, you find out that that's not true. Now, if you're one of those people who looks down on people having a hard time or struggling, and you're saying that it's all their fault or in mindset and all this stuff, and you're not looking at their pasts or the real problems that they have on the ground, I just think in that case that you're a dick, a hick, and a prick. It's very, very wrong when people do that. And yeah, and that's just it. That's my problem with hustle culture. I think it just, this hustle porn needs to change. It's not healthy, and I don't think it's that good. And yeah, so this was me coming down on hustle porn. And the next thing I am going to be coming down on is giant content creators. Going to be coming down on that in the next episode. I hope you all enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next time.